Going back to some of the debt and paying off debt. So we talked a little bit about kind of the younger, categorizing. So maybe someone's on the maybe right in the middle and they have a pretty good handle on their finance, but they're just kind of doing the status quo, just kind of paying off the 40, not 40, 30-year mortgage. They got the car loan, maybe a little bit of consumer debt with credit cards or this or that. I'm assuming you would kind of start in a similar place, categorize, but you talk a lot about like how to pay your mortgage off quicker and how to use lines of credit. And we don't necessarily have to go into details because you do really detailed videos. And I would encourage everyone to go watch those and see those and dissect those. But like talk to me high level about some of that. And if you're just sitting at a coffee shop talking with someone, what are some of the kind of the pointers and jumping off places that you would give people?
Absolutely. So, and I gotta give credit to Dale Clark. He's a rocket scientist, and he came up with this formula that just works. And it's the formula of the cash flow indicator. When you have multiple loans, what we want to do is we want to categorize those loans in order of inefficient loans to efficient loans. The inefficient loans are the cash flow suckers, right? Especially the amount that you got, the amount that you receive is kind of disproportionate to the amount your minimum monthly payment is. And so we want to make sure that we get rid of those cash flow sucking loans. How do we do that? We're going to put it through the cash flow indicator. Loan balance divided by minimum monthly payment, it's going to give you a number. If that number is between 0 to 50, you're in the danger zone. Okay. We want to make sure we get those paid off as quickly as possible. The closer the number is to 0, the quicker you need to prioritize paying that loan off so you can free up the cash flow that comes from that loan and allocate it to another debt. All right. If
Just
it's
to make sure
51,
And to make sure I'm understanding, so you're saying if you have like a debt you have a debt, but it does generate some cash flow, but just not a lot. You want to eliminate that quicker.
right. So a debt, like let's say a car loan, right? Yeah, $50,000 car loan. You have maybe $739 is your payment, right?
Yeah.
What you're going to do is you're going to place that $50,000 on top. It's the numerator. Divide it by that minimum payment of the $739. That number there is going to be between 0 to 50, 51 to 99, or 100 and above. Okay.
Gotcha.
So we want to make sure that we're paying off all the danger zone loans. Now,
Gotcha.
if the number is between 51 to 99, right? And we're talking about consuming loans. We're not talking about leverage, right? Where it's
See.
where it's an asset, right?
Gotcha.
51 to 99, you can restructure that loan.
Yeah.
You can ask for a lower interest rate, right? You
Yeah.
can even refinance, right?
Okay.
But if it's 100 and above, like most mortgages are, then we don't want to prioritize that as much as, let's say, a danger zone loan.
Gotcha.
And so then we want to do that. We definitely want to do that first.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I interrupted you, but so what after you kind of go through that, then what would be kind of the next?
Absolutely. So a lot of people, they look at that interest rate and it puts them in fear, man. I mean, so that's where we come along with education and start empowering them. Let's not look at the interest rate anymore. Okay.
Mhm.
Listen, 7%, 10%, 30%. Don't worry about that. What we need to focus on is time and balance. Time and balance is going to do more for us than looking at the interest rate alone. And this is what I mean. Why is it that $500 a month going toward a payment is not as good? And I'm talking about $500 extra a month going towards the principal. It's not as good as $250 every 2 weeks. Why is it why is it not as good? Why is the lower number, that $250 biweekly, better than the $500 a month? Because with the $250 biweekly, you have 13 full payments.
Yep.
With the $500 a month, you have 12 full payments. So what we're doing is we are hitting the principal because
Mhm.
any extra amount, you don't want to allow the bank to just split it up any way they want to. You want to hit that principal. So you're going to deploy that capital towards the principal. And the more frequent you do it, the more you're going to save in interest.
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
the same amount, right? But you're doing it more frequently, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Because 26 payments equals 13 full payments.
Yep. No, I love that. Yeah, I've heard that 'cause, a lot of people talk about that in regards to their mortgage, make an extra payment or things like that, but you don't hear people talking about that as much with, like, a car payment or things like that. Right, because
Exactly.
that extra payment is going directly to principal, not going towards the interest.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is
love it.
going towards the principal. Well, why do we want to do that? Well, we want to do that because the interest is feeding off of what? The principal.
Yeah,
See, there's a relationship there, isn't there?
yeah,
There's a host and parasite relationship, actually, right? Because the interest is feeding off the principal, and the bigger the principal, right, the bigger the interest, right? The interest dollars. But the smaller the principal, the smaller the interest dollars. That's why we want to make sure that we are hitting the target, which is the principal, as much as we can and as fast as we can and as frequently as we
as
can.
well, I think and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's kind of like Warren Buffett has always talked about compounding interest is the greatest tool, and he's talking about it, for building wealth, and when we're doing the reason that banks loan you money is because 'cause they're making a lot of money. And so there's a reason why when you drive into a big city, the biggest buildings are bank buildings. It's because they made a lot of money. And so you're kind of you're shortcutting their money making opportunity by the compounding interest, and you're taking back some of that so that you can try to get back to zero, and then you can start using compounding interest to make yourself wealthy rather than make the bankers wealthy. Would that
That's
be
right.
yeah,
Oh, that's perfect. And to maybe the people that are like, well, I could never do it. Remember, folks, this actually works with even negative cash flow. We don't know what we don't know. Okay.
yeah,
We don't know what we don't know. And when you are in a forest or, you're in a place where you don't know, how you're going to get out of it. Well, one thing we do know about that situation, and that is we cannot solve the problem with the same mentality that got us there. So all you got to do, right? Get out of the people that maybe aren't helping you out when in regards to the finances, and get on the road towards that debt elimination. Get on the road towards that passive income if that's
yeah.
what you want. Because once you get on the road, you've already won.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta get around people that are gonna elevate your thinking a little bit, and then also you need to get around people that I grew up very poor. I grew up, my mom was a single mom, 4 kids making, less I think I said 20 in one of my videos. I think it was actually like $17,000 a year. I was like, "We were poor." It's so and so but getting around people in today, you know how old are you? We
Yeah, I'm 44.
41. Okay, so I'm 41. So, all right, so we're kinda same. So, like, when we were in high school, like, YouTube wasn't a thing. Like, it wasn't easy to get this type of information, and so even if you don't have a personal relationship with someone, I mean, you got people like yourself who are teaching, and so if you seek out this information, there's lots of good information out there about elevating your thinking, and you don't have to take everything hook, line, and sinker, as they say. You can say, "You know what? I really like that. That aligns with kind of my worldview or kind of how I want to do things." And maybe there's this other financial guy that kind of has a little piece that I like about that. And you can kind of but just get educated so you kind of understand because math is math. Math, it doesn't care what your education is. It works the same no matter what.